everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Peru Channel Podcast. I'm your host, Philip, and today I want to spend a little time talking about something that may affect some of you who have plans to visit Machu Picchu in the next few days, or perhaps even in the coming weeks if a solution is not found. You probably know that almost everyone who visits Machu Picchu has to take a bus or takes a bus from the village of Aguas Calientes along the river below up to the site. It's about 1,500 feet or 500 meters up the steep mountainside, and the pedestrian trail is extremely difficult. Despite the expense of $24 for a round trip up and down for foreign visitors, it's worth it for almost everyone to avoid the time and the physical challenge, especially at high altitude. The company that controls the route, Concertor, saw their contract expire on September 4th, and in typical Peruvian governmental fashion, no contract was renegotiated either with Concertor or with any other company before that date, leaving the status of bus transportation back and forth uncertain. At present, there appears to be two companies bidding for the contract, Concertor and San Antonio de Torontoy. The latter has 18 buses actually waiting at the end of the rail line, and they've been there for quite a few days now waiting to be transported to Aguas Calientes. But as of yesterday, they were still parked at the end of the road 12 kilometers downriver waiting for transportation aboard specialized rail cars that can carry buses. The president of Concertor, Julian Quispe Achaya, noted to RPP Noticias, that's a very well-known news media outlet here in Peru. He commented yesterday that Torontoy was supposed to begin providing transportation services back and forth at Machu Picchu on Monday. But Concertor was still operating yesterday, with Quispe claiming that Torontoy not only does not have the necessary equipment, namely buses, but they also don't have the staff to operate their services. He also claimed that the 4-month contract awarded to Torontoy by the municipality of Urubamba was done despite, as reported by RPP, the company's lack of a fuel supply plant, a boarding station, or other necessary conditions that they just have to begin operations. Obviously, not having a place for fuel kind of makes it hard to run your buses. And that's been confirmed by other news media as well. He says Concertor will suspend operations because they're still operating right now if there is not a fair process for awarding a new contract, because that kind of suspension will leave up to 5,600 visitors a day to Machu Picchu, with only the option of walking up and down the mountainside. RPP also reported that the provincial mayor of Urubamba, Ronald Vera, stated that Concertor had announced their decision to cease operations, which he claims was officially communicated and is supported by out-of-court documents and current regulations, whatever that means. RPP didn't mention anything about why Torontoy was awarded the contract to begin operations on Monday when they had no buses and no plans for any kind of facility to fuel the buses. There are also claims that the awarding of the new contract to Torontoy was done without the consent of the governmental agency CERNAMP, which controls the Machu Picchu Historical Sanctuary. Local communities also appear to be very split on their support for each company, with one Concertor bus apparently attacked as it was about to cross the bridge to begin the climb up to Machu Picchu last Saturday. Concertor's representatives said it was likely a rock thrown by a group of people who had gathered near the bridge as damage was done to one window. I've seen photos and videos of the damage to the window, and it was pretty significant. Fortunately, the bus was empty, as it was going to pick up the last group of tourists to return to Aguas Calientes for the day. This week, police were assigned to travel on the buses to help ensure the safety of tourists who are completely uninvolved in all this business and the political processes at play, yet they're being used as pawns and they're suffering the insecurities of whatever is going on at Machu Picchu. One police officer is traveling with each bus to help ensure the safety of the passengers. So if you're on a bus, you will have a police officer on there at least for a while, so you have no reason to feel concerned about any kind of problems. Despite their contract expiring last Thursday, As I said, Concertura is operating as the only source of transportation right now. Of course, that means they continue to make all the bus fare money, which is pretty considerable since there are thousands of people going up every day and almost all are paying $24 each round trip. One media outlet, Noticias in Cusco, reported that the Machu Picchu Advocacy Front spokesperson, Darwin Baca, who I believe was the previous mayor of Aguascalientes, has said that they will protest the current situation by taking a preventative sit-in, whatever that means, on Friday, September 12th, that's this coming Friday, followed by a 48-hour strike blocking the road to Machu Picchu next Sunday and Monday, September 14th and 15th. Now, obviously, that's a pretty big deal because if you're planning to go to Machu Picchu next Sunday and Monday and you're planning to take a bus up because you don't want to walk, and trust me, I've done it several times and it is not something I'll probably ever do again. You got to be aware that there's a good chance that buses will not be operating because of a strike for those 2 days. The regional coordinator of social organizations of Cusco published a release this morning claiming that they support the Urubamba municipality's decision to award a new contract after what they called more than 30 years of monopoly by Concertura. They also condemned Peru Rail for apparently refusing to move 4 buses a day to Aguascalientes and called on the relevant national government authorities to intervene. As of now, there's been no response from Peru Rail or the national government, and that's it's about 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. Police reported late yesterday that there was a small protest in the village of San Antonio along the railway between Ollantaytambo and Machu Picchu, with several dozen people on both sides of the issue involved. It didn't appear that there was any effect on train service, but I promise you, these kinds of protests have frequently resulted in railway blockages in the past. Without a quick solution, and even with one, there's a possibility of further disruption since one side will not be satisfied with the conclusion. As is always the case in situations like this, each side is quick to claim corruption involving the other side, especially when big business and/or government is involved. There are claims that Concertura is financing much of the opposition to their contract renewal, and even claim that a prominent government official deeply involved is related to Concertura officials. But none of that has been confirmed as far as I know, so I'm not going to mention the government official because it could be just something that's completely made up. If all this sounds confusing, I promise you're not alone. A lot of people in Peru don't understand what's going on, and the fact that they can't even come up with a system to award the contract is it's typical around here. Anyone who lives here and follows these things closely knows that there are always conflicting claims of who has control and how things should be taken care of. When something bad happens, different sides love to say the responsibility belongs to the other side for the problems. When it's something else, different sides claim it's their responsibility and they alone have the right to act to make things better. That's just how things work here and have for many, many years, long before I got here. There's one other little thing that I want to throw out that I don't know how many of you are aware of, but this week the value of the U.S. dollar has dropped to its lowest in over 5 years, the lowest since July 2020 in the early days of the COVID pandemic. Pretty much every economist in the world is blaming the devaluation of the U.S. dollar on the current administration's, I don't know how to put it, the current administration's monetary policies, both international and national monetary policies. And people they don't have trust in the United States anymore, and that's causing the value to go down. So keep that in mind when you're traveling to Peru. The value of the dollar and the amount of what you're able to get with the U.S. dollar, if that's what you're spending here, has dropped considerably, and you'll be getting less than what you would have gotten just a few months ago. Okay, I know this was a short podcast, but I thought it was something very important to get out because it could affect people in the coming days or weeks. I'll be doing updates on the website, and if something big happens, I'll do another podcast. I'm planning to do one coming up in the next week, but if it's nothing major, I'll just add some more news to the end of that podcast as I usually do. So anyway, thanks again for listening. I sure appreciate it, and I hope to see you in Peru soon.